Welcome to Reality NSFW coverage of Australian Survivor 2022 Blood versus Water 1, episodes 21 and 22. Whew. I'm Jonny Fairplay. I'm joined by Dan Montchal, soon to be joined by the most ruthless player in the history of Survivor, in my estimation. And that's a compliment coming from me. It's not a bad guy thing. That's a elite awesomeness tag I would like to throw on there. Sam Gash will be joining us hopefully very shortly. So, we are working against a time zone difference. So, but yeah, I think we're all good. She did have an awards thing last night, so it looked like she had fun. So, but we'll get there. So let's start. Let's talk episode 21. We begin with post-tribal. And I like this. Sometimes we get right after tribal. A lot of times we don't. We get the next day. I mean, we've had some epic tribal councils, like back to back to back to back, especially episode 20 and then now 21 and 22. So I feel seeing that tribe dynamic after such a powerful tribal is very important to the storytelling.
Yeah, especially because it was Sam who went out there, so you wanted to see what Mark's reaction was as soon as everyone tried to approach him. I mean, you saw Shay come up and try to give him a hug, and he's like, "Don't touch me."
You don't need to touch me. Whew. That was intense. I mean, because we know he is a killer.
Confirmed
Professional killer. So, so yeah. Josh got the idol flushed. That's what he wanted, and as a result of everything that's transpired, the second chances now have the power.
Well, no, at this point the idol hadn't been played because Sam they didn't play it.
Oh, sorry.
21, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, you're right. Josh. Josh got worried. Josh was worried. He was just worried because and wanted the idol to be flushed. Sorry, just misreading the notes there. So it's here where we learn that Jordy is a trained gardener and Mark is a trained killer.
Yeah, I buy it. You know, some of that military precision. It's coming out.
It's there. So next, it's day 41. And Juicy Dave with the fruit jam.
I feel like, a lot of the scenes we're getting at Juicy Dave, it's just like, where's this guy been, for the entire middle part of the game?
I know. He seems fun.
Yeah.
And it seems like everyone likes him, and there's obvious worry about his gamesmanship.
Yeah, I think it'd almost be interesting to see how he'd play if it in a not Blood vs. Water season. Simply just because, I mean, you vote out someone's loved one and there's some extra angst there, where I think if it's a normal game, it's just like, all right, you got out some of my alliance. I think you'd see him in a much better spot than what he is in this game.
I'd like to see Juicy Dave come back. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't have thought that coming into this, but I think the world needs more Juicy Dave in it.
Yeah, especially as, you kind of see through this first episode that you kind of thought, okay, it was Brianna was the reason he was there. And, he really didn't know much about the show. And whether he didn't know about it, he certainly has picked up on a lot of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, but if I was looking at Brianna's Instagram, and she was showing pictures of them going into the season. And, they were going away to like a cabin, and they were, camping outside, and they were making fire, and they were doing puzzles together. So something Jordy could have used, the puzzle aspect of the game. So, but as here is where we learn from Jordy, and I'm so excited to discover this information. He is so happy that Sam is gone because I don't know if you're aware, she stitched up Jesse.
That may have been mentioned once, twice, 7,500 times.
Yes, and the Joker is laughing.
I mean, I was kind of hoping maybe we could be done with the Batman references, but apparently it's not meant to be.
Oh God, no! Josh is Two-Face. We get the Joker created the Two-Face. I mean, like, do they have to pay Warner Brothers money for this?
I'd imagine it's either that or Warner Brothers is a sponsor that we're not aware of, and they're just trying to pump it out as much as possible.
So on the like the Survivor Cinema deal, why couldn't they have just won a trip to go see Batman?
That probably would have made more sense. Specifically, then it would be like, oh, that's where all these references are coming from.
Yeah. It was like on the challenge. They had the Top Gun, that Maverick
Mm.
movie that I don't even know if it came out, but Maverick was the sponsor, and they're all doing their Top Gun. They're all making Top Gun references, but I have a feeling that I don't know 3/4 of the cast had never seen Top Gun, so they just kept saying Goose Maverick.
I'd 3/4 might even be generous.
I think so. So, but yeah, no sponsorship despite Jordy's attempts. So, and then I even saw like him and Chrissy watching an episode together, and someone makes a Joker reference, and he's like, "Ah, it's me, I'm the Joker," and I was like, "Oh, stop it."
He's found his shtick and he's sticking to it.
Less is more. So
Right.
I feel like if we got one of these like every other episode, like just as a reminder, you're like, oh yeah, he's the Joker. That's right.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be buried in every single confessional.
No, so I'm blaming production just as much as I'm blaming. I mean, because like with me, I can I'm just like, okay, here's a good one liner, like let me get it out there. And I had like the promises are like fat women and wicker furniture easily broken by Johnny Fairplay. Actually, I said that twice because I was scared that it might not have fit into the first situation in which I said it. So I said it a second time. And it's basically like a wink to the editors, use it whichever time it feels best,
Mhm.
but choose one of the two. And then they use both. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that only needed to be used once.
Yeah, that's hack shit. I'm like, I didn't go around saying like I was like, I knew when I said it the first time, like there was so much going on that I'm just like, okay, like, this is a boring day. Maybe we can, maybe if there was, they couldn't work it in there, you still have it fresh here. But they used it
Mm.
twice and it's just like, no. So editors. And I feel like there's a possibility there's multiple editors working. And so like there was an editor working on the one episode, they're like, oh, this is gold. And then there was a different episode, different editor working on the next, and he was like, oh, this is gold.
They just never went back to look at it like, oh, this is what he says every single time.
Yeah, but yeah, the Joker, it's just like we got it. So, but I love him. I think he's great
Yeah.
TV. So Jordy informs us that Mark is target number 1. Well, if you're going after targets, you better use military precision. Just not to run a joke into the ground. So Sam is credited with the most ruthless move in Survivor history, according to Mark, and he's right. And we see Mark crying that he couldn't save her, and I'm just like, wow, this is a moment because for a soldier, you don't typically see a soldier with his guard down.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and I think it's something where you see. I'm sure we'll see it at some point next week during the finale, if he's still around, where they're recapping of being like a turning point of him breaking down and be like, okay, well now I have to do this because they got Sam.
yeah, so, but I think it very important as a storytelling device in the story arc of Mark to include this scene. So I'm glad that he shared. I mean, because he could have. I could potentially see Mark as someone's just like, hey, guy, I need a minute, and and doing that off camera.
Yeah. Well, and especially after him being cold coming back from tribal, Shay, don't touch me or whatever. And it's kind of nice to be like, hey, it was because he had all this built up that just needed to let it out.
Is there any way anyone else is winning this other than Mark?
I don't see it. Not now after these 2 episodes, because that was one of the things that, when Sam comes on, I wanted to ask her was, what was it about Josh that everyone saw him as a target? Because from watching the show, okay, he's won some immunities, he's a good looking pilot, but we haven't seen him do anything that warrants, okay, I can see where he wins this game.
Yeah, just like seems like a good one-dimensional dude.
Yeah. And especially when you look at everyone left, I mean, we barely ever get anything from Shay or KJ.
No. I mean, just confessional count alone, yeah. I feel like they're not going to fucking Erica us.
I hope not.
I don't think it's possible.
No.
So I just don't see another story that concludes with anything other than a Mark win.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. Like they'd have to really build someone up over these last 2 episodes, which at this point it's just too late.
Yeah, as a Stuckey kid says, any other winner makes the season not a very good one. Agreed. I mean, I just, if they had, I almost feel like they should have thrown a red herring, or like, I feel like Shay is running on fumes, and Kate. I mean, 50 days is just forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we have a lot of characters that are running on, like, was it Victoria on Edge of Extinction?
Mm-hmm.
She was a great character, and I feel like those last few days there was just nothing left in the tank, and they didn't have anything to pull from to show. So, and then that might not have been the case at all. So, but we saw such, like when we did see her, we got these fun little moments. So it's not like KJ had her tea moment, but it's not like, these characters have overwhelmed us. But I feel like if there was anything to show us, you give us that red herring.
Yeah, you need at least something, because right now, what's their story other than Mark?
Yeah, I think the last episode was like 9 confessionals from Mark, and then the person with the second most, I think, was Jordy with 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chrissy would make for a great winner, but the edit's not there for Chrissy.
No, because all the time that you really see her on camera, it's it's her faces, it's her reactions, it's her being a little bit aloof. It's not.
Yeah, or telling us how beautiful Jonathan is, which we all agree. I mean, but that's not news. How beautiful is Jonathan, and how beautiful would a check for $500,000 be, and how beautiful would the two of them together be? I mean, like that's really the only confessional left for her to say that still doesn't work for the story arc.
Yeah, and even in these 2 episodes, she's pretty much said that, I'm sticking with Josh and Mark. So, okay, you're sticking with them, but nothing that would be, okay, Chrissy wins.
Yeah. So, Catherine, thank you. Mark definitely has a winner at it. Yeah, I don't see it going any other way. And I'm not, I'm more than okay with that. As I said, Mark has won me over. I think he did what Coach did in 3 seasons. He did in 2, but actually even better because he won.
Yeah.
So if he wins.
Yeah.
So we'll read the tell on Sam's face when she gets here. So still okay. We're waiting, guys. All right. So we're still gonna talk. And worst case scenario, I got Mark and Sam. I got Mark lined up for next week.
Yeah.
Win or lose. I mean, I feel like that was the interview.
Yeah, especially if all signs are pointing that he's the winner, and to get that interview next week, like that's phenomenal.
But if not, I feel like the two of them, they're going to have some stories.
You would think.
Yeah. So let's see. Mark is crying that he could have saved her, and he could have, and I still don't understand. I felt that decision made sense, to leave one person with the power.
Mm-hmm.
If well, I mean, obviously just Mark, since he had immunity, but it didn't feel like that was the master plan by them.
No, and what I never quite got is I think it would have been different had this been at Final 7, but at Final 8, it was their best case scenario going into it was we get a 4-4 split.
Yeah.
Because at that point, from everything that we'd seen, it looked like Juicy had definitely jumped.
Yeah. So we'll find out what from Sam what Batman character she thinks. Jesus, Arjun, stop it! I will ask that. All right, Dave, Josh, and Jordy are Mark's targets now. So, but not necessarily in that order, because he feels he should use Josh as a shield for as long as possible. And this right here is good gameplay. I like that.
Yeah, because from everything that we have now, we may not have seen it, but everyone keeps talking out there that Josh is this big threat. And especially as we're going to see, he goes on this immunity run. Like, it's not a bad person to try to hide behind.
Yeah. So, and even if he's not this big threat, the perception that he is. I mean, like I use Lil as my meat shield. So, I mean, like, I would go to tribal council, I would watch the jury, and apparently no one else was watching the jury. Every time Lil talked, there was just this look of disgust on the jury's face. Just every time she said a word, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is a KO." I mean, like anyone beats Lil.
Yeah.
But like I would, we'd come back to camp and I'd be like, "Oh man, no one can beat Lil. No one can beat Lil." And if you say something enough, it becomes fact. And so
Mhm.
I like, I would just stop and listen. And 20 minutes later, it's just like, "Oh, no one can beat Lil." And I'm just like, "Are you insane? Anyone can beat Lil." But if you say it, so like, I feel like they're just like, like, someone has said that, "Oh man, no one can beat Josh." And it's just like, "Oh man, no one can beat Josh." And I'm just like, I think they can.
Yeah, I guess the only time where that doesn't work out is where Jordy keeps talking about that second idol. That one hasn't seemed really stuck.
Not so much. So, yes. So Mark tells Josh that Dave is his target. He feels that Dave is the most dangerous person there. And I'm just like, wow. And I feel like there's something to that, in that the fact that they're still not believing Jordy on the second
Mhm.
idol, despite everything, they Josh is or Juicy Dave is seems to be a likable dude.
He's a likable guy, and I wouldn't say that he's obviously not the Johnny Fairplay character, but he's positioned himself well where he's kind of always turns out to be the swing vote. So that's
Yeah,
someone that has a lot of power when they constantly have ties to both sides and can keep swinging back and forth.
yeah. So Mark is doing it for Sam and all the crap that he's gone through in his life, and he has used 6 of his 9 lives in war. Holy moly.
That's a lot of lives.
That's yeah, and I believe it. Like I don't feel like this that Mark's big on hyperbole.
No, I could definitely believe that he was in some situations that where he saw some shit.
He saw some shit, dude. He saw some real shit, dude. Like, I don't even want to ask him. Like, for those of you wondering, when Mark's on next week, it's just like, are you gonna? No, I do not want to know the shit Mark saw. So,
End up
like,
being horrified afterwards.
yeah, no, like, I want to sleep next week. So, and the week after.
Mhm.
That's you.
Yeah, that's my work phone going off in the background.
Perfect. All right. So, I love when people are listening and not watching, and it's just totally fucking when they're like looking around in their car and they're like, "What the fuck's with my phone?" So, all right. Reward is hold on to a rope and lean back, lean back, lean back, and this is not your ordinary reward. It's a good one. It's for a night away from camp at the Survivor Spa with steak, seafood, bed, and champagne.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good reward, especially at day, what, 42, 43. Like
Yeah.
they're deep in to get some food, get
I think we're
cleaned
still I think
up,
I think
a
we're still
bed.
at day 41, but still.
41. Okay.
But it's an overnight deal. So but spoiler, if a girl wins, all the girls are going. So it doesn't even really matter what's going to happen, because this is pretty much set up for a girl to win. A girl's probably going to win, and all the girls going to go on the spa retreat.
Yeah, of course. Why would it not go like that?
Okay. So, I mean, it's not like Jordy's going to get in Shay's head and completely fuck up her game. Whatever was left of her game, of course.
Yeah, the last strings to it were pretty much cut there.
So, of course, JLP is hilarious. Juicy Dave engaging them newly formed abs. And Juicy Dave responds with, "No beer for 40 days will do that, Jonathan." Juicy
He
Dave
says
is
they
he's a beer connoisseur.
Yeah, he said they were always there. They were just, hidden.
Yeah. I I feel like, of this entire cast, I think I'd like to hang out with Juicy Dave the most.
He's up there.
He's up there.
He's definitely a top draft pick.
Yeah. Because I feel like, I saw a video of Nina hanging out with Chrissy and Brianna and Juicy Dave, and I'm pretty sure it was Juicy Dave's house, and it was fucking sick as fuck. So
Yeah.
So Juicy Dave has a sick as fuck house that I want to fucking chill at. He probably like runs this fucking awesome ass fucking company. He can give me a fucking job. And he seems cool as shit just to hang out with.
Yeah, no, that did look fun. I mean, speaking of which, Nina's whole tour over to Australia, that just looked amazing.
Nina won life.
Yeah.
Yes, Nina looking good, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, she does.
So, girl, Nina blossomed. Ooh. All right, so Shay makes a deal with Josh and Jordy to go on there. Oh, wait, what? This doesn't make sense because she already had the deal with the girls.
I know. Even promised them as they were falling out.
Yeah, but don't worry. Jordy could have won, but he chose to manipulate Shay instead.
Of course.
Yeah. Do you think Jordy? I don't know. I think it would have been close.
I think it would have been close. I think that's a challenge that suits Shay, just being smaller, lighter, and being as strong as she was. I still think there's a solid chance she wins regardless.
But I feel like a major component of that challenge is hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine Shay being someone that works out with gloves on, whereas Jordy's working with his hands.
That's true. And I mean, you see Jordy throughout the entire challenge that he keeps, he's able to one arm it while, he's wiping the sweat or whatever else off. And you didn't really see too many other people doing that.
No. So, I mean, because on the hanging TP challenge on Pearl Islands, it was like it's this big, we're all holding up our person or whatever. And I was the first person and I peeked behind the curtain. I did not try at all. I pretended to hold. I didn't even hold because I'm just like, it doesn't make fuck. Why am I going? I'm not going to waste my energy. Not even, so I even halfway pretended. So, but it came down as we knew it would. It was Rupert versus OT, and everyone's like, "Look at OT. He's a fucking brick shithouse. There's no way he loses this." And I was just like, "I don't think OT has ever worked out without gloves on." So, whereas Rupert doesn't own a pair of gloves.
Yeah, Rupert doesn't know what gloves are.
Yeah. So, I mean, it can be fucking -8 degrees, and he's out there with no gloves working.
Yeah, that's incredibly believable.
Yes. So whereas OT has to get new workout gloves often to work out in because they're fashion accessories.
Of course.
Yeah. So and I feel like the same. Like I think Jordy more than likely wins this just based on hands.
Yeah. No, that's true. I wouldn't have been surprised if he was able to pull it off.
So, but it's time for the reward, and well, the girls are not happy. They say it's okay, but I'm just like, I don't think it's okay, and then we learn it's not okay. So, biggest thing for me, I mean, like steak's great, lobster's great, nail clippers. So I would have I ended up winning the spa reward on my season, and and I got they trimmed my nails. I when I was a little kid. My mom told me not to bite my nails. And so I stopped biting my nails. And like, I can't even imagine biting my nails to this day. So, cause like other people, like, you see other people, like, your nails are growing out there and, and I'm just like, oh my God, I need to cut my nails. They're just like, just bite them. I'm like, I can't, I don't do that.
Yeah. And that's, I think the type of thing that I didn't even think about, I guess, until, you're really out there and it's something that so small that why would it ever cross your mind? But
you ever bite your nails?
Matters. No, I don't. I'm like you. My mom, I think I used to get smacked if I ever attempted to. So that got beat out real quick.
Yeah. So well, I think I did when I was a kid, and then my mom bought that stuff that you put on your nails so that it tastes bad, but I thought it tasted good, so she threw that away and then just smacked my hand. So, hold on. This is a pretty important question from Arjun. Do you think Juicy Dave likes craft beer and fucking chicks? Yeah.
I could see it.
He's the real AK. So for those of you that don't get that joke, go back and check out Matt Bischoff's cast assessment of 3 seasons ago, or 5 seasons ago from now. So become a patron. Go to adfreeNSFW.com and check out our coverage of 2015 Survivor.
Well, I think the first AK was on was 2017.
2017. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
2017 Survivor. All right, so let me go ahead and get this in real quick. Join me in Nashville on 420, confirmed earlier this week. I got first time ever at one of my live shows, and probably the first time ever at any Survivor viewing party. I got Whitney and Keith from Survivor South Pacific. I got Figgy from Millennials vs. Gen X, and I got Taj George from SWV and Survivor Token Chins.
That's a great get. It's a great great list to have all around.
Yeah. So go to survivortix.com. That's survivortix.com. Get your tickets today and join me in Nashville on 420. And then tickets will be available next week for Durham. We're going to be at Dirty Bull Brewing. Already confirmed are Jane Bright from Survivor Nicaragua and Zane Knight. How cool is that?
I hope Zane's there. I've been to the last two. I don't think Zane made it to each of the last two, but
he's spending the night at my house the night before.
So babysitting him to make sure that he shows up.
Well, he doesn't have a job currently to get in the way of him showing up. So that helps. He's like, schedule's cleared.
Sounds about right.
Yep. I feel like I'm paying for someone's beer there. And that person's name is Zane Knight. All right. So also, in addition to the nail clippers, that thing is pretty amazing. There's a mirror. And what you don't realize out there on the island is, like, you would think you could just look in the water and see a reflection of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lagoon, but it was still ocean fed. That water's always moving. You can't get a good look at what you look. So, once again, it was even before, because I for those of you that don't know, I have the record for most rewards enjoyed by a single player in a single season in the history of Survivor. And I also got the deep sea fishing trip. And when we were on the deep sea fishing boat, there was a mirror there in the bathroom, and I'm like, holy shit, look at me. And so that's a pretty cool deal. Like, you don't think it's that cool, but to not have seen yourself for 41 days is a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, you see it. It only happens occasionally in the US version where they give them a mirror at the very end, like day 39 or whatever. But I feel like every time you see it, everyone's always shocked at just how they look.
Oh yeah, I mean, I look like fucking what was it, Castaway? I look like fucking Tom Hanks with Wilson. I was like, what happened? I was like, I do got a good tan though. I was happy about that. The rest, not so much. So yeah, you get beat up out there pretty good. So Jordy informs us that he feels like Ron Burgundy. And I'm like, oh my God, are we going to get nonstop Anchorman references for the next 3 episodes? Because if so, I'm for them.
I'd gladly exchange Batman for the Anchorman references.
San Diego means whale's vagina. All right. Josh pitches a Mark Juicy Dave split vote, and I'm not against it. Chrissy, confessional time. Chrissy got weak in the knees when JLP said day spa, but then she got weak in the knees just for JLP alone, and both. Weak knee Chrissy.
Well, everyone has their weaknesses.
Yeah. So JLP is a good one. All right. Just seeing. Oh man. I think we're going to be an hour off on when Sam thinks she's supposed to be. Up. Yes. It's okay. Well, as I said, if it doesn't happen today, we will make good next week with both. But I have faith. All right. Let's see. Oh, Chrissy also informs us that she has hair falling out, and where you would imagine, and hair growing exponentially where she doesn't want it to. Chrissy, Pixar, didn't happen. Ball's in your court.
Yeah, I mean, she takes advantage of every soundbite she gets.
She does. I mean, I don't think there's anything she says that isn't hilarious.
Oh yeah.
So, and here's the thing. So I don't know what Chrissy knew about me, but like, because I hit her up. I'm just like, you're great, you're killing it, I love you, blah blah blah. And she and of course, we're audio talking, and she's like, legend, you're the legend, you're awesome. And then I get hit up by Andy's sister yesterday, and she goes, oh my god, I wish we had videoed Nina explaining the dead grandma lie to Chrissy. She goes, the faces she was making. I was like, I can imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure they were phenomenal.
I was like, why did you not film this?
Yeah, seeing her reaction to something like that for the first time, I'm sure it's just priceless.
Yeah, so I don't even know what she thought I was a legend for. I mean, I guess Judge Steve Harvey. I don't know. Just guessing what I would do on there. All right, so KJ is questioning the Purgatory Alliance, and but Dave says not so fast. He sees what Jordy did. Jordy stitched up Shay.
Role reversal.
What a fucking plot twist.
And of all people, I just love that it was Dave that pointed it out.
Juicy Dave. Oh, Juicy Dave made his last episode count so much. So, and as a result, everyone's down for Jordy. And so then Mark explains, if it bleeds, we can kill it. To which Chrissy replies, please don't ever let me get on your bad side.
Yeah, she was just so happy they were friends at that moment.
It was pretty frightening.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's generally something, if you're talking with your buddies or anything like that, that doesn't come up in normal conversation.
Ever. Like, if it bleeds, kill it. I mean, like, that's like, that's when you're like on an African safari and, and you're big game trophy killing. Like that, like, it's just like, what are we after? If it bleeds, kill it. All right, I'm down. but this dude's like, yeah, he's playing Survivor.
Yeah, I could just imagine hearing that. Like, I think I'm going to go that way.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah. Well, as I said, it'd make it difficult for me to vote against him.
Yeah.
So they're
terrified of the repercussions.
Yeah. So yeah. Let's see. It's back to Ron Burgundy. I mean, Jordy. And Jordy explains that the bed almost hurts. It feels so good.
Must be nice.
Yeah. I don't know about all that, but I appreciate the attempt. So let's see. Day 42, and it's time for the challenge. And Mark smiles when he sees these challenges at this point. He's like, yeah, this is my wheelhouse. And I feel like they are set up. Like, I think production wanted Mark to win one of these last three so that we had the moment of that the second idol being played correctly.
Yeah, to draw that out as long as possible. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think they wanted that, and I think they want Mark there at the end.
Yeah, of course, especially with who's left.
Yep. So so our spa recipients arrive back as well, and Chrissy remarks that that might have been a $500,000 spa.
Expensive bill.
Oh no, Arjun. Yeah, the bed stitched Jordy up. There's so much stitching. I feel like we're watching the seamstress show with all this stitching. Oh. All right. So it is sandbags, obstacles, drop a barrel with puzzle pieces, safe from the vote for immunity.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
or safe from the vote tonight. Sorry, that was the puzzle phrase. So,
which, I mean, I guess, Jonathan doesn't need to give the Jeff Probst, hints as he's out. He just flat out said what the phrase was before the challenge started.
Right. Well, I think he was trying to help Jordy a little bit. So even though they won't Mark to win, so I think Jonathan likes Jordy pretty good.
Yeah, I think you can tell that, especially when you see his boot next episode. That
yeah. So I don't think I think he's figured out that Josh is a dud. production wise. Like I
Yeah.
feel like that's someone that Jonathan would hang out with. But I think he also has the sense to know that that's not the best television winner.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at it, like what I guess even from just what he says, so going at travel, from everything that we've seen, there's never been a time where Josh has said something at Tribal Council where you're like, oh, that was pretty good.
No, never. So, and Mark, Chrissy, Josh, and Jordy are to the puzzle first. And here's where it's confirmed: Jordy is not good at puzzles at all.
Struggling a little bit here.
I think he had difficulty with the.
Yeah, that could have thrown him off.
Yeah, I don't think he got any words. Like, I think it's just like this is a mess.
Well, and I feel like it's almost a dead giveaway that there's a V that someone's looking for vote right away. Like there's a few words that I feel like, I don't know, he said he was a fan, but I feel he should have picked up on a few of these, but maybe not. Just
I feel like the puzzle stitched up Jordy a little bit.
A little bit.
Well, Josh wins immunity, and shockingly, we learned that Mark, with military precision, did not win this challenge because he thought the phrase was Fort Storm something.
Probably goes back to one of his other lives that he
there was a mission earlier. There was a mission where he deciphered a code and Fort Storm was in there, and so he was like, oh, it's the old Fort Storm clue. So, and there's military officers calling him. They're just like, you're not allowed to talk about Operation Fort Storm. Like, it's on fucking TV. So, yeah, military precision. So, Josh pitches to Chrissy that they flip on Juicy Dave. And I'm like, ooh, all right. Because I felt like Chrissy and Juicy Dave were kind of close. But I think she's figured out that her eggs are like, Chrissy's figuring out the game. Like, we are seeing Chrissy figure out the game. And I think she's just like, all right, well, Juicy Dave's not going to win an immunity, though.
Yeah. And I think she's just always closest to Josh.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she liked Dave and got along when it was in the bigger group, but I'd seen him flip a few times. So,
yeah. So, but I still think that she's figured out enough that she was like, okay, to go further, you have to win an immunity. Juicy Dave's not going to win an immunity. This is the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smart. Good for you, Chrissy. Glad you figured it out. So, and Mark and Josh are closer to a Croc than Juicy Dave is.
Yeah.
So, because I feel like that's kind of her type.
Yeah, that's fair. Juicy doesn't really check a lot of those boxes that Croc has.
Yeah, but I'd much rather hang out with Juicy Dave.
Oh.
Croc seems okay.
I'm sure he's a nice guy, but no, if you're giving me the two options, I'm going to Juicy's house every day of the week.
Who drinks more at a bar? Because I can imagine Croc putting down some beers, like watching some rugby.
Yeah, especially because he's a former player. He's just so much bigger. I'd imagine that he probably.
But I feel like Juicy Dave drinks a lot. Like Croc drinks shitty beer, whereas Juicy Dave is drinking the craft stuff.
Yeah, oh no, Croc's what's on special. Perfect.
Okay. Oh, hold on. We're going now. Oops. Okay, so we're going to be joined by Sam here shortly.
Perfect.
Yay! All right, so Dave asks what happened if Mark plays the idol. Jordy says he's not, and Dave says okay.
Not exactly a real meeting of the minds conversation there.
Well, because I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Dave and I'm like, Dave, like, don't you need a little more? And then it's just like, Dave's actually playing correctly because the answer is always yes. And, and we just like, what if he wants to hear what Jordy says, and Jordy's like, he's not. He's like, okay. He's just like, why do I need to continue this conversation? Because he wants Jordy out.
Yeah, I think that was one where it was just they both thought that they were they were getting the other one. And so it was, all right, let's just kind of, check in. That way it doesn't seem suspicious. But
yeah.
So it wasn't like at that point, neither of them were changing their vote.
No. So Dave says votes on Jordy. Mark says yes, because Mark informs us. You always say yes. That is correct, Mark. You are learning. So Mark uses his lie detector on Shay, and she's a fucking mess.
I don't think you need to go through a military interrogation, training to be able to figure out that Shay's can't keep it together.
Yeah. Woo. All right. Jordy knows it's either Mark, Dave, or himself. And I felt like this was really telling that he knew that he was in the mix, and we didn't see anything in the episode to show him that he was in the mix.
Yeah, I think he's definitely this season a lot more observant than I think than even the edit shows.
Yeah. I'll give him, as I said, the awareness is much more than, because I felt like a Jordy blindside here could have been could have easily happened, and it's not that big of a blindside if he sees the potential of it.
Yeah, and there had to have been some other conversations that we weren't seeing that Mark was fully in on voting for Juicy.
Yeah. So next it's time for Tribal. Sam shows up. She's so cute, but I'll tell her that when she gets here. Chrissy reminds us that it was an expensive spa day, and Dave says, "Oh, not so fast. That was Jordy's play. So let's put the target at where it deserves." And Jordy's like, "Wait a second. Oh, hold on. Stop the presses."
You're getting me in my pajamas because I literally just got out of bed.
Dreams have been fulfilled. Do you know how many times I've said a little prayer? I was just like, if I could get Sam in her PJs.
I was like, I either get changed and look presentable, or I get on time as much as possible. So that's what you got.
You're great. So and we have a commercial break coming up here in a minute, and so if you need a quick.
No, you're fine. Okay. You get in me.
So. Welcome, Sam Gash, the most ruthless player in the history of Survivor.
Oh, come on. I think you win that.
Mark said earlier so we're talking episode 21. We're finishing up Tribal now, and then we're going to move on to episode 22. So, but he says this episode, most ruthless play in the history of the show is his wife. That's you. I mean, I am not going to call Mark a liar. And if I were lying, he would figure it out because he's got a lie detector just built into his face.
He's so proud. He's so proud.
Not calling him a liar after some of the things he said this episode. No way. Nope. Whatever Mark says goes.
Yes. Hey, everything he said was fact. People take it offensively, but it's fact.
I believe it.
Oh, I don't doubt him for a second.
Yeah. So no, I mean, he says he used up 6 of his 9 lives in war, and I'm just like, I believe it. And I was like, the goal is to, to have you here today, Sam. Hopefully have Mark next week, and it's just like, am I asking Mark any war stories? No, I want to be able to sleep afterwards. I absolutely am not asking any.
He's lived a big life, and Survivor is just one layer to it now.
So we have to ask you this. Which Batman character are you?
Catwoman.
Okay, Catwoman. Here we go.
But, I don't need to make a name for myself. I'm just playing the game.
Oh, but you didn't need to remind us every third confessional that you were Catwoman?
I just never thought, I know some people do that and it's really exciting. All my bandwidth went into the game, not into playing a character. And maybe some people need to have that character to get into mode, but we did so much prep, Mark and I, probably me particularly on game theory and thinking about who I am as an archetype and how that fits into a group of people, that I just was so in the game that I guess I didn't need that little gimmick, although I'm out of the game, so clearly there was things that I didn't do right, but it was quite a ride.
I'm 100% gimmick, Sam.
Maybe I'm speaking to no, like you're not. Like it's, you know, as you know, like Survivor, and particularly when you kind of play up to 40 days, which is what I did in that time. Like it takes so much mental and physical. It takes a mental and physical toll on you. And for me, I was always making this decision, like if I do this right now, or if I push hard on this if I push hard on this particular challenge and I expend this kind of energy, what's that going to mean to my, you know, ability to socially connect or engage or to do this kind of strategic play right now? Like everything was like a weighed up decision.
Wow. So preparing for the game, were you watching US Survivor in addition to Australian Survivor, or just concentrating on Australian Survivor?
I've always watched American Survivor. I reckon I've seen anywhere from 3/4 of the seasons. So I started with American Survivor well back in the day in 2000. Would I have called myself a super fan? You know, I think sometimes when you're watching it, you don't kind of put yourself into that category. I think once Australian Survivor came out and it felt like there was this potential that you could play, it felt more intense to me, the game. And then after playing, I think I became then a student of the game in terms of you've lived it, you understand how things can play out. And I always said, like, the best preparation for me was a failed experience.
Yeah.
And that was like my advantage going into the game. But it also became my increased threat level of being a returnee player. And so I spent a lot of time thinking, how can someone who's a returnee player, potentially in a season of people who are not returnee players, lower their threat level?
Yeah. Well, I felt like there was enough of you guys. You have Sandra, who's played 37 times, and I felt like Nina's played by proxy.
Yeah.
So we had those two. We have you and Mark, and then I'm giving Con that same advantage as well. Just being a part of how production works. I mean, like on a fans versus favorite season, a fan will never win. Because of the advantage of knowing what you can get away with, knowing how far to push production, and because like the first time you show up, they're like, you don't talk, you shut up, and it's just like, okay, there's just this fear. Well, unless you're me, and then they're just like, oh, this guy's such a fucking problem. But everyone else, there's this fear. But once you play, it's just like, oh man, they don't do anything. You can do whatever you want. There's no penalties.
Yeah, I mean, I think Khan did get a little bit of that because people knew of him. It didn't matter if they knew of him from Survivor. The fact that people who were new players felt like they knew a bit about his past, a bit about how he liked to come across, that they knew that he was really, really hardworking, that he was kind of almost ruthless in the pursuit of his goals. I reckon that gave him the same kind of challenge as a lot of returning players. And you've missed Andy, who...
Oh, yeah.
He went first, but
where's my caddy hat? So I do, in case you're wondering what tribe I'm on, I am on the Lava tribe.
Oh, how did you get one?
King George.
Oh my goodness. Oh, those are hard to come by. You have done well.
That's an alliance. You heard it here first. This is step one of him sticking the sword in my back, right?
No pre-gaming, Jonny. No pre-gaming.
So, all right. So likening Australian Survivor to US Survivor, one of my favorite characters of all time is Coach, and for the first. I felt like it took 3 seasons to really tell the tale of Coach. The first season, I felt like he was a lovable douchebag, but he wasn't aware that he was a douchebag. And for the record, if you wear a dragon button-up shirt, you're a douchebag. I mean, that just go to your closet right now. Like, oh shit, I'm a douchebag. I had no idea. So dragon button-up shirt means douchebag. So I think he was a lovable douchebag. There was no awareness of that. He came back the second time. He was attempting to catch lightning in a bottle. It's nearly impossible to do. It was an epic fail. And then he came back the third time, and he embraced what he was, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
And I feel like that's Mark. Like, I hated Mark.
I know you did. I remember this. And then I remember watching some of your tweets going, like, I don't love him, but I'm getting a bit closer.
Yeah.
Mark's I don't think he's a douchebag.
I'm not going to go that far. It was just there was.
Like, oh gosh, I don't think he's a douchebag. I clearly fell in love with that douchebag.
Yes.
But with Mark, he's an introvert, and you also see him as like a military guy who's not used to sharing like himself. That's not used to sharing. Being really succinct with his words. Like, we're the opposite. I am verbose and he is succinct. Like, between the two of us, like, who's going to speak more. And so his first season, like, it just, like it was for me in many ways, the opportunity came and went and he didn't make the most of it and it was gone. This time around, I feel like he's aware that he's got to share more of himself.
Yeah.
And that's so new for him. So if it doesn't, and it's obviously an edit, like, you don't see everything.
Sure.
Like, Mark spent so much time, particularly at water camp at the beginning, like really telling his story to connect with people. And I remember when I heard that later, I was like, oh, that's a huge life shift for him and such a positive one because, put aside the game and all that kind of stuff, to socially make bonds and share part of who you are when it doesn't come natural to you, that's like growth. And, Survivor for me is not about growth. It's about trying to win.
Yeah.
And if you grow along the way, that's awesome. But there was like a moment as like a wife, I was like, that's a really beautiful outcome of Survivor, regardless of the big outcome.
Yeah. I mean, like we were talking earlier in episode 21, when he's crying over you, he's just like, I could have saved my wife. And this same guy, his first season, if there's like whatever the circumstance is, if there's a tear in his eye, he's walking away from that camera before he's coming back to finish the interview. Yeah. And I just thought it was so incredible for the story arc of Mark. I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, do I love this guy now? What just happened?
Yeah. I mean, I see that side all the time because he's actually quite a softie, which is why we've kind of connected because I'm emotional. So it's nice to be with a partner who's like that and unashamedly like that. And I knew me going would be hard, particularly in the way in which it came down, because we had that plan all along. We had it from the previous episode when Jordan went that we were willing to do the sacrifice. But in that moment, we didn't know if it was going to be me being sacrificed or him, because we never knew if the votes were going either way. Now, that time, like, Mark was keeping the two idols because he had the immunity necklace, so the idols were safe. Like, our whole thing is we don't want an idol to be misplayed or go home with someone. It's just so much more powerful for one person to be in the game with two idols than even two players and one idol. And that was our choice. And, it can be debated if it was a good choice or bad choice. But in that point in the game, we thought it was the better one. And
I loved it. To have two players play as one, I think is one of the most selfless things that it's just like, here's the end game. Like, it's, we're sharing the money. Like, even though you can't conspire to share the money, you are.
Yeah. And going into that one, I think I was a bit more aware than Mark. Like, he had, a really strong alliance with Josh from day one, but I never was close to Josh. Like, Josh was nice to me by proxy of his relationship with Mark, but he knew that I was heckers strategic and he wanted to be heckers strategic. And so, we'd actually often have conversations about, gameplay and ideas and numbers. And you could see there was two people who really knew a lot about numbers and knew a lot about how strategy should go. And sometimes like, oh, I might play smaller, but I couldn't. And so I knew at some point, like, I wanted Josh gone or he wanted me gone. And the funny thing is, like, he actually didn't want me gone in that moment. He just wanted me to play the idol.
Yeah, just for the trust.
I said to him post the game, I'm like, if you just wanted that, why didn't you tell me at camp? And go, I'm going to load up on you. I really want to work with you, but I need you to get rid of that idol because I need you to be on neutral ground with me. I'm like, if you wanted that to be the outcome, you should have told me. And the thing is, we wouldn't have done it anyway because that was not our choice.
Yeah.
But poor Mark, when he had that moment afterwards, I saw it and we were watching it, and I knew he would have it, but the idea is, like, don't have revenge, focus on the game, because we literally sacrificed, in the end, because now I'm on the jury. It's 2 months. It's like a really, really long time to be away, for two parents to be away from their child.
Yeah.
And we just had to try and fight hard.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, just the selflessness I don't think we've ever seen that kind of selflessness ever in the. I mean, like when Rupert,
you're not going to see it in a normal season. Like
when Rupert bows out so that his wife can play. Like I didn't watch that going, oh my god, like that. I saw that for what I think it was. It's his wife looking at him going, I've heard your fucking bullshit Survivor stories for the last 8 fucking years. My turn, motherfucker. And that was it. It wasn't, oh, let me do this selfless act.
Yeah. I mean, and he's also probably like, this is good for my brand. You know, this fits into me too. It's like, but I mean, he still did it. I think what made it more, you know, I didn't necessarily see it as selfless. Like I just saw it. And because I knew that he was willing to do that too.
Yeah.
So we were both, I guess there was never a point where I was like, I'm doing this, like I'm sacrificing myself. Like I knew that he was willing to do that too, whoever had the best chance to try and push forward. But yes, it took a lot of non-personal ego and detachment of how, you know, everyone wants to stay another day in the game. Yeah. Like, and people are willing to do a lot of stuff to stay literally one day more in the game. And it kind of, you had to change your thinking of that and go, no, it's not about one more day. It's about like, what's the best chance for us to get.
Yeah. And you want your loved one there one more day.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, and I think that's what he thought, because when, you know how like you do your vote and like you wait ages before like you find like before Jonathan or Jeff goes and reads out the names and you're literally just sitting by the fire for ages. Yeah. I remember at one point I just muttered under my breath, I'm good to go. And then when Josh was like, play your idol. And we're going, what? In my head, I'm like, I just want you to say it. I just want you to say it. You've heard me. But I said to Mark, it's your choice. And I knew that was a little bit cruel, but I'm like, if I'm going to go, the jury saw me say that. I'm like, they need to know that this is Mark's decision.
Yeah.
And then I think it mentally that also like made Mark feel even more intensely that he kind of played a role in me going. We've had to talk about that since.
I feel you played for 3/5 of the game, the best game of anyone out there. But I do feel Jordy frazzled you a little bit. As far as the edit, it felt like it I mean, you know, and you know, they're not CGIing, but like I felt going into that merge, I'm just like, just give her the money. This is over. Like she's won, and then you know, and Mark not telling you about the idol at first. I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna have it out with Mark. Don't worry.
Yeah, that for me, that's Mark's. That's his worst move. Yeah. But you know what? I feel like it also played a little bit of power to him, because all of that male alliance were like, oh crap, like Mark's maybe not really playing the game with Sam, and so like there was benefit, because he's like, oh, it's fine that maybe Jordy and that knows, because they're going to think that I don't tell you stuff. And I'm like, but you didn't tell me stuff. Yeah. But like, so, you know, there might be positive of it, but I still think it wasn't a great strategic moment.
Well, I would say he says before the merge, he comes here, he's like, you know, I'm going into the merge and I have the ring, you know, I'm bringing the ring to my wife. And I was just like, oh my God, this dude's gonna pull Sam aside and be like, you know, I'd like to re-propose with this.
He was. He truly was. Mark's a timing person. And like, you know how, so we got burnt on season 2 by our own doing of being too close. And so that's our baggage of Survivor from season 2 to now. So when you get to merge, there's only 4 couples. And so everyone else is really looking at the couples. Sure. And also there's a tiny bit of resentment, or a lot of resentment,
Absolutely.
that they're not there with their couple. And so like Mark and I had indicated, like, let's not be too close. Like our whole strategy was like, let's be as physically apart and in different conversations as possible. He took it a bit literally and really did in that moment. But again, that was part of the strategy. So the problem was it was over a day before I ended up finding out. So there were opportunities for him to say it, but I think Mark wanted to make a moment of it. I think he wanted to like take me by the riverbanks, and
that's what I felt too.
He did. He really wanted to set a moment, because
But he could have said that.
I know. But like,
I think I think he had resolved. He's like, I was already fucked up. I don't even need to tell her about the moment. And it's just like, yeah, you need to tell her about the moment, Mark.
Well, he did say, I was going to tell you. And my favorite part was like, so you're not proud of me? I'm like, yes, I'm proud of you. I'm also mad at you. And like, let's talk about the frazzle.
Okay, yes, please.
I mean, so once the idol situation played out, the game was different. I mean, like, having played that move, knowing someone that like, and the person's now still in the game, meaning Jordy, who knows your truth, you know, Jordy literally, so I gave him the proposal, let's work together. Yeah. And I was actually being genuine. In that moment, I was like, I'm probably, in my opinion, the most fluid player in the game. Like, I'm actually willing to work with Jordy right now. Like, he's a lone unit. I thought he was nowhere near as socially strategic as Jesse was. Jesse, I knew how great a player he was because I'd played that first half of the game with him. So if we're trying to weaken the two of them, like we really have weakened them. And because Jordy had just gone for Josh, like his social capital was really, really low.
Yeah.
But I was like, I still want Josh out. Like, I'm happy to work with you.
Sure.
And I need to prove to Jesse, at least for one vote, that I was true to my word.
Yeah. Then, you know.
But what I later found out is, so Jordy came back to camp after we had that late night conversation, and he said to everybody, Jesse went home with the idol.
Oh.
So that's why people, like, you're probably wondering, why is no one believing that they didn't have the idol? It's because his first words about the idol was Jesse went home with it.
Okay.
And I think in that moment, he must have been thinking, I've got no social pull. Sam's offered some kind of, you know, olive brand.
Something's better than nothing.
Something's better than nothing. I've got to go with it. He slept on it and was like, I am not working with her. And then
you stitched up Jesse. I don't know if you're aware. You stitched him up.
Yeah, I know. I stitched him up. So then he wanted me gone. So then over the next a day and a half, he told everyone.
Yeah.
The weirdest part for me was like, my gut told me that he was telling everyone. I could see them all off in pockets, but no one in my alliance confronted me about it.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I'm sure they know. I didn't find out officially for 2 tribals when he like laid it out at the tribal council that everyone knew.
Wow.
So it's this, you talk about kind of like paranoia or feeling uncomfortable. I'm like, well, can I trust this group of people that is Mark's alliance that I haven't essentially worked? I haven't played the whole game. I don't have history with them. I don't know what their default behavior was at the beginning of the game versus now. Like I'm playing catch up with these relationships, and now I'm stuck with these people because Jordy's it became a defensive game.
Yeah.
So
and Mark's explained, it's just like, look, everything's good. It's like, that's great that you think that. but I have to say, I have to know
it's not
this.
my style of gameplay, but all of those things that you see of me swaying in that, I swayed from day one. Like that wasn't a change of behavior to indicate paranoia. I sway. Like I actually did the keynote presentation right now, which last night, which is why I'm in this hotel. And I like swayed and I go, oh gosh, if you guys are watching Survivor, like this is the sway. But anyone who had played the game with me from early on knew that the sway was just me. Okay. But once again, you know, like when all of a sudden you're deemed as a threat in the eyes of other people, you know, they're looking at everything. And so Jordy, who hadn't played the game with me only from Merge, he's seeing that sway and he's like, she's paranoid. I'm like, it's not paranoia. I just know that you're trying to get me. And I'm also in conversations like you're in conversations trying to fight for my life. And one thing I hate about some players, and this is not that I hate about Jordy, but this concept that you have a right to fight for your life in the game because you feel that you're on the bottom, but other people who are maybe playing from the middle or the top, if they are fighting for their life and are trying to have conversations, you're going to label them as crazy or paranoid. And I'm like, no, like we're literally all just playing the game. Like you're allowed to actively play the game if you're the bottom, the middle of the tier of players or the top.
Sure. So with that being said, do you still feel that Market was the best person to go forward with 2 idols versus you around that time? Or because, as I said,
I do, because I mean, I think at the time, I didn't really know what Mark's game was pre-merge. Like we talked about it and we both were like, I was like, I've dominated pre-merge.
Yeah, you both did.
Yeah.
And so, but I kind of saw you going, Yeah, but I know I did. Do you really know you did? Like, I mean, like that was
Yeah, and
visually
like
audible.
our game, I think my game was in terms of like it was more distinct. Like Mark was working with an alliance group, but the thing is, he felt that he played him. He obviously got Andy out, and they credited it to him and Nina, but he felt like he played a big role with Nina in getting Andy out from day one. He was able to point to me in that early conversation, like, these are the plays that I did. This is what I can talk to if I get to the end. And I'm like, well, if I got to the end, I can talk to and my tribe just went to tribal council so much more. So there was probably more distinct things, and I played the swing a lot. So it's like, I wasn't in a majority. I was really closely aligned with Jesse, but then I got closely aligned with Khan, and I had a lot of one-on-one partnerships. So I felt like I had a more clear game to talk to, but all the people on the jury were really people I burned because of the decision to yield my game to work in concert with my husband. And so I'm sitting in jury, and I'm feeling like I always placed me right next to the jury.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I always on the ends? Like I'm feeling the heat. My shoulders getting very warm. And I just felt I need to get there. Like I need to get there, and I need to have conversations, and I need to remind these guys it's a game. I'm playing the game literally that all of us here came to do, and all of us came to try and be sole survivor. Please don't begrudge me for playing hard, because that's like the assignment.
Yeah. So are you told once you're on the jury, because I'm not familiar with really being on the jury so much. So
I wasn't familiar to that point either.
Yeah, I had a day. I mean, so but there's a lot of Jim Beam that day.
We only get 2 drinks a day.
Oh, that was not the case in the US. So Rhino also stole a couple fists, so that helped.
Surprised me. I saw Rhino in World's Toughest Race, and I think just before we started the race, he acquired like an entire bottle of spirits, and I'm like, we're racing for like up to 10 days after this. How are you drinking that?
Oh yeah, well, and do you remember all of Rhino's airtime on World's Toughest Race?
Yeah, we didn't get much either though, because we weren't dramatic enough.
Yeah, well,
but I mean, I guess they didn't really get past the first day. Yeah. So that's
Rhino's bike got more airtime than he did.
I know he didn't. Hopefully, he's got to ride that bike since then.
Yes. So, but were you guys instructed no talking and no facial communication during tribal? Because like I'm like, when you're just like, I don't have the idol, and Mark's like, we don't have the idol, and Jesse's sitting there, and Jesse doesn't have the best poker face on the planet. Like, are they like staring him down going, do not tell these people they have
So it? I know that the rules, like I read the rules pretty clearly before playing the game, and as a jury member, you're not able to make any indication to information that's going to affect the active game. Okay. So it's clearly a rule. It's the same as the US.
But are they reminded?
There is a reminder from the EP. It didn't happen though. Like people weren't reprimanded during the game. Like it was then mentioned later. I mean, this is the sticky part of the game for me, and I can dwell on that. It's so easy for me to go, clear signals were made from the jury to the players that I had 2 idols on kind of multiple occasions, very subtly, and then some really blatant ones, like I'm like, oh gosh. So it felt like my goose was cooked with that story.
I personally, like, I love the integrity of the game so much that if my arch enemy is there, I wouldn't do it. I could not.
And even though, to Jesse's credit, like, I mean, he had the most reason to do it.
Sure.
And yes, he's got a bad poker face, but he was, and like, I remember there was times when, like, Jordy's talking about the idol and like Jesse's smiling, like, but I still didn't think that was that bad, like into what it could have been. Like he wasn't indicating, he wasn't verbalizing. He was kind of just like, it was like a knowing look. But really, of course, you could always just go, of course, Jesse's going to give a knowing look. He's trying to do whatever he can to save his brother. It wasn't a clear look, but a clear indication was given, and it wasn't by Jesse. And yeah, like I remember when I got voted out, like I was like, cool, that's all part of the strategy. And then it just kind of festered in me. It did for a little bit going, oh my gosh, like that really happened. And I don't know in this moment how much that influenced Josh. I knew that there was stuff going on in terms of like conversations between Chrissy and Josh about what Jordan was doing. But so you really care about the integrity of the game. And I'm not saying that Jordan doesn't, but he probably cares a little bit less about Survivor.
I think I think $500,000 changes that entire family.
It changes everybody's family.
Yeah,
let's be clear. No. Let's be clear. We've all just come out of COVID. You know, like I think there's a perception of like some people need it more than others. But, you know, and I'm sure it was like for you guys, but for a lot of us, like we didn't literally work for 2 years. Like, you know, $500,000 could really change. I mean, yes, some people have a little bit more money in the game, but it's life changing for everybody. And on top of that, everyone works. Like, you know, Josh is a pilot. Like Jordan is a really successful businessman and personal trainer. Like everyone could create their own wealth. Everyone there is savvy. If you're on Survivor, you are savvy enough to be able to earn your own money.
Yeah.
But $500,000 tax-free is life-changing for everybody.
Okay. All right. Another question. Are you allowed to go through people's bags?
No.
So, and what happens if you do?
Well, I've just never seen it, so I don't know the repercussion. I mean,
yeah. So on US, you can.
You can. Yes, I know. Which I mean, like, is everyone just not carrying their backpacks around all the time?
No. I mean, once again, I've always said I've changed my tune. Like I love the integrity, love and respect the integrity of the game. That I've said for years. I would never go through anyone's bag because I just think that's bullshit. Like I just respect the game too much. You shouldn't, you know. Like,
that's the hard thing though. If it's a rule that allows you to, like, it's an element of the game that is a bit, like, I know, like I don't love it because it's just the weird thing is it means if you are a player that's going to look for an idol, like in the US season, you have to either be willing to carry your bag with you from day one because you have to be consistent.
Yeah, you can't just start.
Yeah, like, oh, you know, so you've got to do something from the very, very beginning. Like, I'm just someone that's always going to carry my bag around. Or you know, you really keep around camp, which obviously you're not keeping around camp if you're finding an idol, or you're willing to bury it.
Yeah. So I just hate, but over the years, I'm just like, okay, now I'm an idiot if I don't go through people's bags.
Well, I'm sure people and people do. Oh, it's such a hard one. Like, it was nice knowing that there was one space of privacy, particularly considering we had idols.
Yes.
That said, when I had said to everyone, like, you can go through my bag, that's why I had to get the idol out of my bag.
Yeah. And we never see you empty your bag.
They never asked.
Really?
No. And I couldn't remember.
I would have just done it once it wasn't in there. But then I guess it opens the door to, all right, well, let's see yours too, Mark.
Yeah, so I offered it. And at the time, I like when I was watching it back, I couldn't remember, was I willing to go through that? And then they did that post-confessional where I was like, the idol was in my pocket. So when I said that, I could have opened my bag up. But I also think you hand over a lot of power when you're literally, it's like a really like, when you open up your bag, like it's a really interesting psychological moment where people have shown that they exert power over you. But no, they never asked. And I was so willing to, and I had to be prepared for it because you can't offer something that you're not willing to do because then you're a liar and people shouldn't trust you. But no one ever asked.
Wow. All right.
I actually even like started to place my bag really open. Like I always kind of like tried to be like, I'm so comfortable. Like, you know, sometimes I would just leave my clothes laid out and like, you know, I don't care. I'm like, I've got no care about my belongings. And Mark's in the military, so his stuff was always like so tight and clean and wonderfully put away. And that fitted who he was. And I'm like a little bit more
folded with military precision.
Oh, his stuff was like, he looked after his stuff so well out there. And Chrissy every morning would like fold up everyone's stuff and put them in little piles. And Chrissy and I were like the mums in the morning. Like we were cleaning the camp with sticks and putting everyone's shoes lined up whilst people were sleeping. Behind the scenes.
Were you excited to see Chrissy take the machete to that root stump?
She's so funny. She's so funny. That stump was so annoying.
Why didn't someone do that before?
Oh, I don't know how, like, sometimes you just accept a situation. Like, I can't even say how many times we stumped our feet on that. It was like literally on the walkway. And yeah, so it was hilarious to see her go, "You boys have done nothing. I'll do it."
All right. So Dana has a question about Josh because we as viewers are confused.
Yeah, so we've heard a lot that Josh is this big threat. If Josh gets to the end, he's going to win. But from what we've seen, it really doesn't add up. So what was your perception of him out there, and what's maybe what we weren't seeing?
He had a lot of I felt like he was a revolving door of different, like, women who were still in the game that would really lean on him for, comfort and safety and leant to him as a strategic player. So he had a lot of people who liked him or who wanted to play with him or deferred to what he was saying. And that's why people referred to him as leading. But I didn't play that first half of the game. What it looked like to me is that first section of the game, like particularly Red 2.0, there was a male alliance and they really did make decisions together. And in my mind, like, I kept saying this to Mark, like, you need to be so clear of what your distinct moves are from Josh. And Mark reassured me I can speak to that. So, yeah, but he is like, that last week of the game, like winning both those immunity necklaces, making deals with, he seems like, because he hasn't had idols, like, he was really fluid in what he was doing, particularly at that last point. But before that point, there was a bit of safety around how he played. He was probably more conservative, always conscious of, like, retaining majority and getting out minority. I know when Jordan was still around and, Jordy, sorry, I know there's so many J's, the Joker.
The Joker. He should have mentioned that.
Yeah, sorry, the Joker was trying to get rid of me. I just kept saying to Josh, we're in this symbiotic relationship, whether we want to or not. And I knew those kind of words would connect with him because I was like, if you get rid of me, then one of you guys has gone next.
Yeah,
because they're never going to they're never going to let one couple stay in the game. And so, like, I think the reason that the two of us went for so long as a pair is we were acutely aware that getting rid of either one of us meant the other pair would go pretty quickly.
I felt like that was ridiculously obvious as soon as someone strikes at one of the last two remaining couples, that the remaining couple drops to the bottom.
Yeah. And so, the fact that Josh was deemed a high threat until this whole 2 idol became an issue, and then the heat went on Mark and I. So it kind of went between the pairs who people believed were more threatening. But Josh is a great player. He's a great player.
So, all right.
And really, really great guy as well. Not that matters in the game of Survivor. Oh, actually, it does. It totally matters that someone's a good person because that influences the jury.
We're a couple quick things I gotta ask. Juicy Dave.
Juicy.
We had decided a couple weeks ago because, like, we're non-spoiled. That's the only way that I'll watch any season Survivor. Like,
it's a great way to watch it.
I just, like when a new Avengers movie comes out, or I'm there the first night. I can't have anything ruined. I don't want to know it. It just ruins it. And we were talking. We decided a couple weeks ago. It's the episode begins with Juicy Dave is dead. Laying down, and it's just like confessional wise, he died 8 episodes ago. But as it continued, it's just like, all right, is Juicy Dave winning Blood versus Water the best season ever or the worst season ever?
In terms of what you've seen.
Well, no, he grew. I love Juicy Dave. I love you, Sam. But honestly, if I had to pick one person to hang out with from Australian Blood versus Water, from your entire cast, I think I'm choosing Juicy Dave.
Well, I'll try not to be offended about that. He loves to have a good drink, so I think he'd have an awesome time. There
you go.
Juicy was hard to work with, but Juicy was a good player in many respects. He definitely was like Gollum around the idols, and it was like really hard to communicate to him that an idol in the hands of your alliance is stronger and much more favorable than an idol in the hands of the minority.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get that. I'm like, if you get rid of this idol or if you want it gone, it's back in distribution and anyone could get their hands on it and it could change the majority alliance. And he was just like, must get rid of idol.
Yeah. Knowing where that idol is just as powerful as having it yourself. Just knowing where it is.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing where it is, because then you can make the play. And also, you're then not a threat because the person with the idol, who people know, is all like, it took so much heat off players. Like, literally for my last 10 days, I was like, you know, Jordy says that he was fighting for his life in the game, but I was also fighting for the last 10 days that I was there. Everyone was talking about me. And it was like, you know, Jordy knew that he was in trouble by us, but like, it was great. It was actually great for everybody else. And like, I know people are like, oh, these idols. And I'm just like, no one's talking about your name. It's great. And so for Juicy, what he was good at was campaigning a direction. I mean, you obviously saw him play a role in those 2 swing votes. He's the one that broke the majority. I think he gets the credit more than any other player for breaking down that majority. I mean, it's so funny though, like he played a role in breaking it and then he's the first one to go. So, you know, but that's, at least he was, you know, he was willing to be risky. I mean, he kind of had this promise to get through to the top 6 and then we were all going to fight it out. And he left 7. So in many respects, it was not as good a strategic play as it could have been if he actually went with the safe route. But I did keep saying to him, like, Josh, Jordan, and Chrissy are really tight. Mark and I, like, we've got this at least one idol. Do you want to work with us? And like, he kept thinking, no, you've got an idol. And I'm like, it could be this micro alliance could actually have the idol, but that probably falls on me. Like, he didn't know the game as well as me. It maybe falls on me for not explaining it to him well enough to give him confidence that would actually happen. So he always just felt that he was on the bottom of the 6.
Was there a possibility he couldn't even listen to that argument though at that point? It's just like, no.
And as you know, like, you know, what got really nervous about our season, and I don't know if it's the same with every season, but information was leaking. Like, every time you tried to communicate an idea, you're like, oh gosh, I've got to be so careful what I say, because that person could just then go straight to the next person and just say, they just want you out.
Yeah.
I actually said that half the time, even when people weren't talking to me. Like, I always made a big effort for Jordy to finally speak to me, so I could actually just say to Josh and Jordan, oh, he just wants you out.
Yeah, right? I love this. I love the moments that we do get with you and Jordy. You know, it's just like what? we know no good is coming from this. Like, why are we even having this conversation?
I still was always open to Jordy. He wasn't like he had, you know, he wasn't, but I was always open to it because, like, you want to play, and like, I know Jordy wants to play, but he did rule off really 2 people to work with because of that revenge.
Well, because you stitched up Jesse. I don't know if you had heard.
I mean, Jesse stitched himself up. Don't hand over your idol.
I had one question about Jordy. So when you two were kind of going back and forth at tribals, he made a point of saying, oh, it's Jordy, it's spelled I-E, and you always just spelled it with an I. Were you doing that on purpose?
Well, I'll spell it however I want to spell it.
Yeah, I feel Jordy's pain on that. I would tell him, like, before he even went to tribal, I come in just like, for the record, there's no H in Jonny, and they're like, yeah, we'll see.
Well, he called me Sammy. He called me. My name's not Sammy, but he, you know, always referenced me as Sammy and wrote Sammy. Oh, yeah. So, you know, we can each take, you know, it was done with fondness. It was done with fondness and a bit of like contempt.
All right, so we won't make you do the second half of the episode, but before we let you go, we have one question.
Okay.
The most ruthless move in the history of the game. Now, for those of you that are watching this podcast that have not seen any of the social media stuff that you've put out there, you actually follow Jesse for 15 minutes, stalking him. Completely unaware is Jesse.
Yep.
Is this done with military precision?
I know. I feel like my husband would be so proud. Like the preamble to that is like I was aware that there was a strong probability that Jesse and Jordy had found a clue at the KFC reward, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like we're about to go to trouble. I'm about to vote off my biggest alliance member to form what I considered to be like a really strong majority in a team of 6.
So you were going to do that before you even got the idol?
Yep.
That was your plan to get rid of Jesse?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it was already decided beforehand. I mean, the thing is...
You're so ruthless.
Not really. My only alliance member is Mark. Like in a normal season of Survivor, you would never do that. That would be a really silly play.
Yeah.
But Jesse and Jordy, Jesse and I were not working together from merge. Like he just was like a little teenage boy with Jordy going off in the corner in the bushes. He never spoke strategy with me since that point. He only ever told me what to do. And like he was like, we've got to vote out Josh. And I was like, I think it's too early. Let's go for Shay. And he's like, no, I think we do it. No, we're going to do it now.
Yeah.
And so I could see that kind of really consultative relationship that we had pre-merge was gone. And it made sense. Like he was with Jordy. Like, so it was.
But you guys were so beautiful together.
Yeah, and we are like a meeting of the minds in terms of how we chose to play. But when Jordy was there, like they were different. Like it was, Jesse and I used to go off. And so Jesse and I used to do midnight chats, and now him and Jordy are doing them. And I was excluded from decision making, and I was also obviously was not privy to the idol, and that's fine. Like he's playing with his blood, like that's his loyalty. So it's a different theme, and so the play is based on the theme. On top of it, I found out that Jordy had told everyone about Mark's idol. Yeah. And for me, I was like, okay, so we're either getting out Josh because Jordy's told us that Josh has wanted Mark out. And then I'm like, I reckon Josh has probably mentioned Mark going out because Jordy told him that he had an idol. And I'm like, so Josh may never have mentioned Mark's name even as a possible like vote off if that information hadn't been shared.
Sure.
And I was like, which partnership do you trust the least? And I trusted Jordy the least out of all those people. And I was like, and Jesse's now playing Jordy's game. And so when the decision was, do you get rid of Jordy or Jesse? This is before we even went to the immunity challenge. It was categorically clear that Jesse was the better player.
Yeah.
And so that's why he was the target. And it just so happened that Jordy also, won the necklace. So Jesse was going. So when I saw that he had an advantage, and the two boys were very obvious in looking for an idol,
I'm sure.
really, really obvious. I remember the girls at camp, some of them, like KJ and Montchal, were like, oh, Jesse looks really sad. And I'm like, he's not sad. He's just focused on it. In my head, I'm like, he's not sad.
Yeah.
But I did say to them, oh, no one should be alone when they're sad. I think I'm just going to go and check on him. And so then I went after him and like I crossed a riverbank, and I mean like no shoes. I had a sarong on. I didn't even have underwear underneath my sarong because I was like had just done laundry day.
It's so insane that you.
So it's this funny scene, like I mean that we don't see, but I went across the river. I jumped into the bushes, and then Jesse went across back the river, and so I'm watching him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in a fluoro like yellow sarong. It's like the worst thing to be camouflaged.
Yes.
So I'm like lying flat, and then he kind of disappeared. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and I kind of was counting down, and I'm like, he hasn't moved. I think he's found it. So I like ran down the riverbank. I got caught in a stack of reeds. It would have looked ridiculous. And then I came in on him as he's literally going, you found like a hidden immunity idol.
And you get the boo.
Oh yeah, I said boo.
That is the best part. Boo, because it's like, as cute as that is, like you just see Jesse's face. It's like the most uncute thing ever. He's just like, fuck me.
Yeah. But that initial moment of like, oh my gosh, it was actually genuine, because in that moment I was like, oh, you're the player that I played so much of this game with. Like you found an idol. And then it just all happened like moment by moment. So like, it's not like I went into that scene going, okay, I'm taking this idol from you. Like when would you ever imagine that would even be a possibility?
Right.
And so it was like very, very quick thinking. And my desire was for us to bury it. I asked him, like, are you going to play it? Like I was never going to say, don't play it.
Yeah.
Like that's a surest indication that you should play an idol when someone tells you to not play the idol. So that's why I asked the question, like, oh, do you want to play the idol tonight? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, that means he's going to go home with the idol unless he gets spooked at tribal. Mark had promised Josh that if Jesse or Jordy found an idol and they played the idol, which had to be on Jesse because Jordy had immunity, Mark would play his idol for Josh. Okay. And I really didn't want that to happen because I was like, oh, like imagine, like you would have to do it. You would really solidify trust, but then we'd be a couple without an idol. And having made a big, bold move that possibly made our resume a little bit better than Josh and Jordan.
Yep.
And so for me, knowledge is power. And that's why I like have a high work rate in the game. I mean, every conversation, because you can use that information. And then I just, he obviously put it in his board shorts. I said I could see it. Probably couldn't.
I was about to say, could you really even, because I'm just like, I don't feel like it's that obvious. And like, and did his board shorts have like the liner in it?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
Okay. If they had the liner, like, that thing's rocking in the, like, I'm using that as a platform. I'm going back saying I took a blue chew. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I don't have an idol. I'm just
happy.
I had
a good time in the bushes. No, and that's when I was just like, oh, do you want me to take it? And it just like I'm trying to remember, like, because how like everyone gets revisionist history and like tells the story in such a way that's not true to them. I don't know what was going through my head at that point. Like, it really was just like, I'm going to take it. Then I was like, I kind of said to him, maybe we should bury this by the well, because everyone's going to look at us when we go back to camp. We've been gone for a while. Yeah. We knew we were close to tribal council. And so then we, went to bury it. And then Jordy comes up and I'm like, oh, let's just not tell Jordy. Let's just go and deal with this. Yeah. And then we're off at tribal council. So it happened so quickly, and then I have that choice. Do I somehow get it back to him? Which is the silliest move ever.
Yeah. No.
Do I play it for him? And that would be the most confusing play ever, and I would break so much trust. Yeah. Or do I keep it on me, knowing that Jesse's going to do something at tribal council to let Jordy know that I have it, or potentially say it to everybody?
Yeah, because I mean, like. Yeah, when he says, do you want me to burn you now? And I'm just like, oh, shit, no. Like, don't burn her. Don't burn her.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Jesse wanting to let Jordy play it out. But obviously it didn't help Jordy's case for the honesty, because most people would have presumed that you would say something.
Yeah.
But I think Jesse did. He was hurt by me. He was shocked. But he also respected me a lot because of what we had gone through together for like 31 days. And I was being genuine with him when I was like, I'm going to try and see what I can do. Like, I didn't want to make a promise that I couldn't keep, but I was like, I'm going to try. Like, in that moment, that was all real. But because Jordy hadn't really played with me, he just didn't know what Jesse and I had gone through for me to try and, I guess I burnt him in the game, but that was for strategic play. It could be strategic play to then make a new relationship with Jordy.
Wow.
It was full on. Like, it was a really full on move, and like I'm sitting there going, he's going to burn me. Like my mind was going overdrive of how am I going to deal with this?
Absolutely.
And obviously, if Jesse blew it, then it would have been a public idol, and then I'd literally go straight to Josh, going, "This is for us," and I would play it probably in the next 1 or 2 tribals.
Yeah,
it would have been a different gameplay, but it didn't go that way.
And it's not that moment. I mean, like, it's a moment. It's not. I mean, we're talking. I put it right up there with the dead grandma lie. So I think.
Oh, I'm not an evil person.
I'm not either.
Yeah, well, no,
I'm not.
I
got 2 kids.
It's the game. Like, you should, like, this. I don't know if it's like this in every season, but this season was weird with idols. Like, people didn't want to use them in groups, or even if everyone kind of found out about them, and then that person always was like the main target, versus people going, gosh, this person has an idol, like I can work with this person and get them to use the idol, for my gain. People were just like, you got to go if it was like really confirmed. And I kept saying to Mark, like, we've just got to deny this and like make Jordy seem sketchy, which he already was sketchy, so it wasn't like a hard thing to do.
Tell him Porky Pies.
I know. I love that you like now use that verbiage with your family.
So I have to say that in the history of Survivor, of 2 players that I felt played the best game I've ever seen and didn't win in the U.S. Parvati on Heroes Villains. In Australia, you.
Aw.
It was amazing. I mean, just
thank you.
Just incredible.
It's really nice, and like I recently spoke to Ricard and Sean on Drop Your Buffs, and I've just really appreciated the support that I've had from particularly American players and American viewers. I think you have to remember that we're like only 7 seasons into Australian Survivor, and I mean, you've probably seen some of the heat that I've been copping online. It's been pretty full on.
Yeah,
I'm the worst person like in Australian history.
For the record, I think you're beautiful and one of the hottest survivors ever. So take that.
And I've just woken up. SG, Sam, keeping my name. Yeah, it's been full on, but I just, I know it's a good play. Like, I know I played a good game, and I think as long as you know what you've done and you're comfortable with it in the game of Survivor, then everyone can have their own commentary, and you've really just got to let, water go off a dog's back.
You think if a guy does it, that it's applauded?
Have you seen All Stars?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't think it. I know it.
Yeah. I feel that's so disgusting.
And the crazy thing is, like, did you ever see me speak badly about a player in the game? Like, even like with a little smack talk?
No, you're.
Oh, it's like not my style. Like, I'm so strategy. I'm never about like, I never wanted to make Jesse look silly more than like him leaving with an idol. I never wanted to ridicule him. I was shocked that it happened, and so I made comments of like, I can't believe this happened. Like, I've become evil. But it was never like attacking Jesse. Like, Jesse's the stupidest player on Survivor history. It was like getting candy from a baby. Like,
yeah, well, he's not Eric the ice cream scooper.
Yeah, like there's so much a lot of players would have said, and people do smack talk in the game, and it's fine, but I didn't do that. And it's really funny because the same people that were like shocked that I voted out Jesse were the ones that wanted me to vote out my husband. And I'm just like, so now I find it a bit of a laugh because the outrage, and we do live in an era of outrage, but I was like, I wish these people who are so quick to type actually like thought just like for maybe 5 seconds, and they're not the ones that do. Anyone that thinks for 5 seconds or 10 seconds is able to kind of go, it's a game show, they're fighting for $500,000. Like literally she's playing in the rules of the game. You see there's no outrage about, what the jury are indicating on the bench to the game. And for me, that's what deserves outrage, not someone playing the game.
Yeah. I mean, like I got death. I woke up in the ER 2 separate occasions being knocked unconscious from behind because the dead grandma lie. I had to change my phone number twice right after Survivor, death threats. Like, people sent feces to CBS, attention to Jonny Fairplay. Like, I mean, it was insanity. And then go watch the live reunion show, and you have Andrew Savage, my arch enemy, saying, hey, it was an honor to have played the game with Jonny Fairplay, one of the greatest of all time. And I'm just like, this is my arch enemy.
Yeah, and like that, and Jesse's the same way. Like, yes, it was I don't know if you watched the jury villa. Obviously, it was.
I haven't seen the jury. I saw the social media when you guys watched the episode all together at the bar.
Yeah,
and I put on
a party for him. I wanted him to feel, because obviously, like Mark and I have been a part of the Survivor community since 2017, so we're friends with everyone. And I wanted Jesse to feel like, playing the game is one thing. Like, you can get so single-minded on the goal of winning or being competitive. And he's a triathlete, so he's a competitive individual. But I wanted him to go, but like, this new network of people in your life is in your life forever.
Yeah. And
so I created this party for him at a pub, and I invited like everyone from Melbourne from season 1 through to
Jericho,
Jericho,
King
Phoebe,
George.
Brooke, AK flew in from like Adelaide. And he's like, literally, that's the best. He goes, that's the best part of Survivor so far that I've had. And I was like, and I want you to feel it because you're a great player and you're a great friend in life. And, we did a few shots together, and he's so fine about it. Despite jury being intense to begin with, the moment we had a conversation, he's like, yeah, I kind of respect your game. Now that I understand what happened, because he didn't know that I stalked him. He didn't know what Jordy had done for me to turn against him. And when I explained it, he's like, yeah, if you had done that against Jordy, I would have had to have gone against you too. Yeah. So he got it. Like, he's a rational thinker, which is why I love playing with him. And so I was out the other night with Jesse at a bar, and like we're having fun, we're dancing, and then this one guy kind of grabs me and he goes, "Stop dogging your mates and learn to shut your mouth." And I'm like, "Oh, excuse me."
Where was Mark with his military precision fist?
I know. I was like, "Do I understand who my husband is?" I'm like,
he's a trained killer, not a trained gardener.
Oh no, Mark's getting a little bit of sass.
Mark, when did Mark learn how to cut a great confessional? Where's this guy been all my life?
It was a great line. I think it's a hilarious line, and he's copped so much flack from it. Like people going, "You're a murderer," and I'm like, he literally is a trained murderer because he defended our country and our country's interest. Like he's actually saying fact. Like you can choose to be offended by it, but it's fact.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can get consumed by the trolling and the hate, but it's not the majority of the population. And so like, it's funny how like so much of your viewing experience becomes about the social commentary when, I mean, I guess we're doing social commentary now too, but I'm a podcast listener. So I listen to like 50 to 80 hours of podcasts before I went on the show. Cause we were in lockdown for 10 years. It felt like in Victoria. So that's kind of how I prepped a lot for the game. So these kind of podcasts I love. Why
was mine your favorite?
Because of you.
Oh, all right, I'll take it. All right, two quick ones. We'll let you go.
Yeah.
U.S. versus Australia. You down?
I mean, isn't anyone down if they get an offer for that? I think it'd be a pretty cool season.
Supposedly, Boston Rob said no on Blood versus Water.
Which Blood versus? Oh, this one that we just did.
According to him.
I mean, yeah. If they asked Sandra, I wouldn't be surprised if they asked him as well. Yeah. Well, I mean, I reckon like when you get an offer, if you are so lucky to get one, particularly as a returnee player, it's always going to be a consideration of where you are in your life. Particularly for a woman, like I want to have a second baby, so it would all depend, like. If I got offered, when I got offered, what was the theme? But of course, like I didn't know if I felt this at the beginning, but now I feel I have unfinished business in the sense of I've never been able to play on my own. I've never been able to like create an alliance like with Jesse and see that through to where it would naturally go if I wasn't stuck playing with my husband. And so, yeah, like my story has been so connected with Survivor with Mark. I've never gotten to be an independent agent.
All right, so you think if they do U.S. versus Australia, Sandra gets the call to come back, Nina gets the call to come back, but is on the Australian tribe. You like that?
That's cool. I feel like she's an honorary Australian now.
I know, and I feel like that makes Nina one of the most dangerous players to begin the game.
I think she's more dangerous if she's on the American tribe because
I know that's why I don't want her on my team.
Yeah, because the American.
I want her with you.
She's dangerous because we're all talking hypotheticals right now, but like if Nina was on an American tribe, all of the American players would know of her relationships with all the Australian players.
Yeah. So now I think she needs to start on your tribe. So and last question: out of the remaining players, who are you rooting for? and why?
I'm trying to be cute with my answer, but like I can't. I'm like, what would be cute to say? Obviously, like Mark and I played. This has been like our dream for 4 or 5 years since we've been together. For one of us to be in a position like he's in the final 5 right now. So clearly, like you can tell from my intensity of my face on the jury bench, I'm very invested in my husband doing well.
Okay. But
I also do think that like all of them have played a very unique game to get to where they are right now. And there's like active games, there's passive games. But at the end of the day, like it's about whoever gets to final 3. It's about how they choose to communicate that story of what they've done, the story that we know and the story that we don't know, and letting it connect to the hearts and the minds of us as a jury. So it's been interesting and fun to be on the jury because now you're like, I'm either going to definitely be putting my Mark's name down if he's in the final 3, or like I have to consider that he's not going to be there. And like, I take jury really seriously.
I bet.
I was writing a lot. Like I had a journal and I was writing about like the plays that I had known of each of the players. Like really from like top 6, I was like writing about all the players. Because like if you're the person that's going to play a role in someone getting $500,000, for me, I'm making that decision based on strategy and the way they played the game. And so you have to kind of know what they've done, all of them.
And who you're married to.
Yeah, but I said like I didn't like, you don't know if he's going to be there, so I could be, rooting for someone else.
Oh, I would be so checked out if if he made that far. I'd be like, who's your? I don't care. Pick a number between 1 and 10, guys. All right, what was the number? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and now there's only 2 of us in the jury that have a player in the game. Like it's pretty. Like I know for Jesse, like it was so intense for him when Jordy was in the game. And like it's heartbreaking when he's no longer in the game, but then like I could see a release on him when he was gone. He's like, okay, well that dream's gone, and now like, okay, it's gone.
Yeah. So and for the record, it seems like Jordy had the greatest day of his life, like 8 days out there. So because he informed us each time it was the greatest day of his life.
You know that Shakespeare quote, "The lady doth protest too much, methinks."
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's all a little bit of fun. It's all a little bit of fun. I'm like, you trying to like fool yourself, like that it's all a little bit of fun, which is actually a great mental strategy. Like I'm having a great time. You're trying to evoke that you're having a good time, even if you're not having a great time.
There we go. So, well, Sam, thank you. As I said, we're for those of you watching and or listening. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're gonna finish up 21 tribal discussion. Sam, you don't have to go through all that stuff. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. As I said, you're elite. I'm so proud of you. I am so marveled by you, and I'm beyond impressed by you. You're one of the greatest players to play the game, and it's so awesome that I got to see you do it.
Well, you know what I like to do with Mark out on like the island. And I'm going to send it back to you guys. Big hearts from me.
Thank you.
See you later.
All right. And with that, we'll take a quick word from our sponsors and we'll be back.
Lucy Nicotine is a company founded by Caltech scientists and former smokers looking for a better and cleaner nicotine alternative. Finally, tobacco alternatives that don't suck.
Researched and developed for 3 years to be made for people, not patients. Lucy has created a nicotine gum with 4 milligrams of nicotine that comes in 3 flavors: wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. Lucy also has a lozenge with 4 milligrams of nicotine in cherry ice flavor. Each and every flavor actually tastes great, and it's convenient and discreet. Products can be enjoyed anywhere, on flights, at work, on the go, or even in the gym.
I am so happy that Lucy is sponsoring us. Ever since they came on board, I have gotten no less than 5 of my friends transitioned over to Lucy and put their cigarettes down. They like the gum. I'm used to seeing the packages all around. This stuff is great, and it's really helping people make much healthier choices. So get on board and join the Lucy movement.
Hey, it's 2021. Get rid of your cigarettes, unplug your vape, throw out your dip, and get some Lucy nicotine gum or lozenges. This is the real deal. A subscription to Lucy comes directly to your door each month. It's so simple that you don't even have to leave your house because Lucy has delivery down.
Reality NSFW listeners, go to lucy.co and use promo code SURVIVOR to get 20% off all products, including gum or lozenges. That's lucy.co and use promo code SURVIVOR at checkout. Also, I have to give this disclaimer. Warning, this product contains nicotine derived from tobacco. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's lucy.co, and be sure to use that promo code SURVIVOR.
This episode of Reality NSFW is sponsored by Blue Chew. Say it with us, Blue Chew. Blue Chew is making waves and bringing more confidence to the bedroom by offering chewable tablets that can help men get stronger and longer lasting erections. That's right, we're giving away super hard dicks.
Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets help men achieve harder, stronger erections to combat all forms of ED.
Blue Chew is an online prescription service, so no visits to the doctor offices, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And the best part, it's all done online.
Blue Chew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. Don't like swallowing pills? No problem here. Blue Chew's sildenafil and tadalafil tablets are chewable. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and they prepare and ship direct, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy.
Hey, if you're looking to give that immunity idol to someone, or you don't want to be voted out of a crater, don't worry, Blue Chew's got you covered. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information.
And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use promo code SURVIVOR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's Blue Chew, BlueChew.com, promo code SURVIVOR to receive your first month free. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
We're all trying to eat better, but healthy breakfast doesn't have to be boring. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you love, but without all the bad stuff. And it's amazing as a midnight snack right before bed.
0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. That's only 140 calories per serving.
It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. And build your own box. Available flavors to build your very own custom bundle are cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and my favorite, maple waffle. Now, Magic Spoon recently brought back their 2 super popular flavors, cookies and cream and maple waffle. Thank goodness. But they're back permanently. And when these flavors were first introduced for a limited time, they sold out extremely quickly. Now, I'm here to let you know you can get them again or try them for the first time. Why? Because they're delicious and indulgent.
Johnny, Magic Spoon has so many great flavors that I really enjoy, and even my kids enjoy them. We have the cocoa, fruity frosted, peanut butter. All these are really great combinations. They enjoy waking up in the morning and getting some Magic Spoon right off to start their day great before they head off to school. I think everybody listening should give Magic Spoon a try, or if you've tried them already, it's time to reorder. Let's get you some more Magic Spoon and get your day started right.
Hey, when I finish a podcast late at night, the first thing I'm thinking is not sleep. It's let me grab a delicious bowl of Magic Spoon before I go to bed.
So go to magicspoon.com/survivor to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code SURVIVOR at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/survivor and use the code SURVIVOR to save $5 off. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this podcast.
How awesome was that?
She's amazing.
I wish we had asked her about stitching up Jesse.
You know, if maybe it'd been mentioned once or twice on the show, but it slipped my mind.
It wasn't even in my wasn't even there in my peripheral. Okay, so back to tribal. Jordy says Mark is most dangerous. Mark, time to vote. Everyone votes. Mark plays the idol for himself, and
Military precision.
With military precision. And as a result, we have a tie with Jordy and Dave with 2 votes each, and we get a handshake before the votes are read between Jordy and Juicy Dave, and I love it. I mean, that just speaks to the camaraderie of Australians and how they approach the game versus us.
Yeah, they get along, and I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that love Jordy out there. There's a lot, maybe there's some that aren't as big of fans, but one of the things is always such a good sport about it. He's just like, hey, like when it's in the game, I'm going to play as hard as I can, but whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. And boom, Juicy Dave voted out, and and they yelled at Juicy Dave, enjoy the beer, which was our sign that maybe Juicy Dave likes to enjoy a pint or two, and that was confirmed by Sam.
I just like that on his way out, he's literally said Juicy out.
Yeah, he says Juicy signing out, and if you guys think I'm a bigger threat than some of these people, that's a huge compliment. And then we get his confessional as he leaves, and I mean he loses it. He was playing for Brianna, and and it was we knew that. I mean, like the entire reason he's there is because of Brianna, and just a beautiful moment. Juicy Dave out, like yay, Juicy
phenomenal.
Dave.
Yeah,
I love this season so much. So, I mean, all right. We're going to go a little fast because there's nothing I hate more than a 3-hour podcast, and this will not be one. So we're 1:55 for those of you timing at home. Episode 22, we get post-tribal again. I love it. And Jordy has done it again. And he loves his Josh Alliance so much. But he also knows that KJ voted for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously you're getting some fallback from, the whole reward challenge. But that's where I kind of, a little confused with Jordy here is because he knows that KJ voted for him. But all you hear this whole episode is how he thinks he's in control of the game, like he's the best player out there. And it's just like, I don't know if it's a little bit of lacking in self-awareness or what it is, but it's just like, now's not the time to be patting yourself on the chest. Like you got to dig deeper now.
Yeah, I feel like it's bravado. So it's just that false courage, like, that maybe he needs, but it's extremely inaccurate. So, but I'm a huge proponent in providing myself with tons of bravado, so I get it. I can relate, Jordy. It's okay. So day 43, Chrissy's in the top 6, and she loves it.
Oh yeah.
So, and for those of you wondering, more caught fish. So then we have Chrissy macheting the root stump, and good for her. And Mark informs us that Josh is dangerous, but now is not the time. And Mark is, for those of you wondering, he did play an idol at Tribal the night before, but he is now carrying a concealed weapon, and he has named it the Ghost of Jesse. What a dick.
So I loved it when he brought it up in the confessional. I didn't love it when he did it at Tribal.
Yeah. Because I don't. I mean, the good thing is Sam is now there as his hype man. I mean, Mark has P. Diddy on the jury saying, "Hey, I mean, yeah, I agree with that, but what about Mark? Yeah, that's cool, but what about Mark? Yeah, I caught that too, but what about Mark?"
Yeah, because Jordan isn't going to be campaigning the same way for Josh.
I don't think so. I don't think I think I wouldn't be surprised if like every day Jordy doesn't take a taxi somewhere and just goes off and picks up a bunch of chicks and and shows up 3 days later for Tribal.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So, what I found interesting at this point, Original Blue is all that's left. How amazing is that?
I didn't realize that till it was pointed out.
Yeah. So pretty impressive. So now it's time. Obstacles, 2-rung ladder, and a vertical puzzle for immunity. And Jordy, Mark, and Josh first out. And I hate this. I hate it on Survivor. I hate it on the challenge. I hate it on Big Brother. I hate it on every competition show in which your puzzle is not shielded.
Yeah.
So because we see Jordy peeking at Mark's schoolwork, and I can't stand. As someone who was smart in school and did very well, I too cheated, but I felt like I was discreet about it.
I mean, it'd be hard to be less discreet than Jordy.
Yeah. So, but I just don't like the opportunity. I wish that that they had dividers in between,
Mm-hmm.
and they could.
Now, what's your thoughts on Chrissy just essentially bowing out and helping Josh?
That's not possible if Chrissy is if there's the dividers.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's I get it. It's part of it, and it gives us stuff like this, which I didn't hate, but I didn't like. I wanted Mark to win this one and have his idol for next time. I mean, I felt like that just would have been so. I mean, maybe it's going to be even better next episode where Mark fights and wins immunity.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that 3 is at this point. I don't think they're going to break. I think it's Mark, Chrissy, and Josh staying together.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Shay or KJ that went next.
Yeah. So and
maybe a shake up at 4, but I'd be really shocked if it wasn't one of those 2 girls.
Yeah, and I think the smart move, based on what Sam said, that this Josh thing isn't just lip service. They do feel that way. That I feel like if I'm any of those other, if I'm anyone other than Mark or Josh is the next boot.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's getting down to the point where, they've been working together. I get a little rough in the past few votes, but I think they have to look at the other one and go, hey, most likely one of us is winning the challenge. So if they're open, we got to take him out because I can probably win my way to the end.
Yeah. So, Josh wins thanks to Chrissy. I did notice at this point, Josh took Juicy Dave's hat.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, because he's been wearing the baseball cap backwards.
Yeah, no, he was wearing. Yeah, that's right.
That's Juicy Dave's hat. Ooh. Juicy Dave, how could you not bring your hat with you to Tribal? I mean, the balls on this guy, they're juicy and steel-like, which is probably the opposite of juicy. Anyway, let's see. Mark wants to load up on Jordy and save his idol for the last time. KJ informs us that she's a silent assassin. Okay. Mark at this
pretty
point
silent.
Yeah, I mean you're halfway there, KJ. You should. KJ is silent. Mark believes that Josh is a question mark at this point and tells Chrissy that. And bold move, Mark, because I feel like having Chrissy be assured in the Josh, Mark, Chrissy alliance goes a lot further than throwing up question marks.
Yeah, you want to make sure that she's locked in.
Yeah. So Jordy tries to convince Chrissy the move should be Mark, and Jordy pitches Shay to Mark so that he won't play the idol, and Mark's like, "Stop it." I'm a trained killer and a human lie detector. I'm not buying any of that. So, time for Tribal. Sam's cute once again. Chrissy doesn't believe Mark has an idol still. And Jordy is like, oh, it's tense. And then it's just fun and games and fucking and ass grabbing, Sorry, mate, you got close. Jordy says to Mark, sorry, mate, you got close. And Mark's like, you live and learn. I'm like, what? The beauty of this. And we don't see Jordy's vote. And he says, sorry, it's my only hope. And it's just like, ooh, this is curious. And then when it's Chrissy's time to vote, Jordy goes, you know what to do, Chrissy. And she says to shush. And the idol's played. It's the ghost of Jesse, and right before we see Sam saying, "Don't play it, don't play it," and they're instructed not to do anything, and she does. So Buddy plays it, and Jesse does not like the ghost of Jesse reference. And
no, that's why I thought it was a good confessional, but there's no need to rub salt in the wounds there.
Yeah, I mean that's the difference between me and Luke Toki and me and so many of these Australian players. Luke Toki explained to me that, there's a huge chunk of airtime in Australian Survivor that is tribal. And so if you want to get your airtime as a character, you give them the nuggets at tribal. And, in the US, tribal doesn't last as long. So I ain't saying shit. And I'm going to get my shit in confessionals. That's where I'm going to tell my story. And then come time for tribal, I'm giving you nothing.
Yeah.
So, and that was one of those moves where it's just like, you got your line in earlier. You didn't need that line here.
Yeah.
But once again, you got Sam there to do damage control after the fact, but I did not like that. So, and Mark shouldn't have played it, and it's Jordy, the Joker, is going home, and he goes up to JLP afterwards and says, bring it in for the real thing. It's a hug from Jonathan, which was great. And then he says, I told you that second idol was bullshit. And then later we learned that Jordy's proud of himself, and I'm proud of Jordy too.
Yeah. No, he played a great game. I think his biggest flaw was he let on that he was smarter than what he appeared bit too early.
Yeah. So DF Seraphine says, I think Josh beats Mark. I don't think so. I mean, Sam says that Josh is respected, but I don't feel like that Josh is getting the edit to win.
No.
I mean, if the next 2 episodes are Josh heavy, I feel it's too little too late to tell that story.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
So yeah, I mean, you set the foundation on these 2 episodes for the end of the game. You want people to watch these and go, oh wow, I want to it's the Joker or Batman, and the Joker went home.
Yeah, and especially you figure Josh won immunity these 2 episodes, so they could have started to build up that story if that's what it was, but you didn't get anything from Josh. Yeah,
with 2 immunity wins, you could have just peppered in the confessionals.
Mm-hmm.
So. Jimmy K, is Jordy the Jonny Fairplay of Australian Survivor? I don't know. I feel there's similarities. So I feel that Jesse is more of a Jonny Fairplay type player without the life experience.
I feel it almost be that combo that, it's more of Jesse's game style, but maybe with Jordy's mouth
and looks. I feel like I look more like Jesse, but I feel like you put Jesse on in 2 seasons. He's a lot. I feel like he's a lot closer to Jonny Fairplay than Jordy is.
Yeah, I can see that.
So where my learning curve was just so off the charts my first go around, that it was.
How could we compare?
I don't know. It's tough. So with that. We got one up. Well, we have 2 episodes left, but we got 1 podcast left, and we might do a couple follow-ups with some interviews. I mean, this is such a fun cast. There's so many people that I'd like to talk to. I have reached out to Jordy unsuccessfully, so we'll see. So, but I have reached out to Mark by way of Sam, and I feel like that's a pretty good way to get in touch with Mark. And so I think we have Mark lined up for next week.
Be awesome.
Win or lose.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's who we need to talk to. I mean, of the remaining people.
From the 5 that's left, Mark's the one that you have to talk to.
Yeah. So, and then, as I said, then we'll follow up with, I want to follow up with Chrissy and Jordy and how about a Juicy Dave interview?
I would love a Juicy Dave interview.
All right. So with that, everybody join me in Nashville on April 20th. That's 4/20 Wednesday night. I'm going to be in Nashville at Doghouse Saloon. I'll be joined by Taj, Keith, Whitney, and Figgy. It's going to be an awesome night. Tickets available right now at SurvivorTix.com, SurvivorTix.com. We have general admission and VIP packages. You can get yourself autographed buffs, and we do trivia throughout the whole thing. There's a meet and greet before. It's a really cool deal. Go to SurvivorTix.com, SurvivorTix.com. Also, tickets will be on sale next week for Durham, North Carolina on April 27th. And so that'll be the same link, SurvivorTix.com. Look for that. I'll be, as of right now, I'll be joined by Zane Bright. And the fact that they ridiculously rhyme is amazing. And then become a patron. Go to adfreeNSFW.com. Get our coverage of 2019 Survivor. If you're looking for links for this season's Survivor, we provide the links at adfreeNSFW.com each week for the episodes. So Dan, you got a winner pick?
Mark.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna second that. I can't go Juicy Dave still, right?
I don't think so.
There's not a twist that. Okay.
Not that we're aware of, anyway.
Okay, I'm gonna stick with Mark as well. So with that, we will we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for watching, supporting. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, do all the fun things. Become a patron. Once you get added to the Secret Survivor Facebook Reality NSFW secret Patreon Facebook group. It's a really awesome collection of people. If you don't like it, I will 100% send your money back. We have different tiers in which, you get Australian coverage. You get the weekly Q&A, which is Matt Bitchell's favorite show each and every week. And you also there's autograph picks for survivors each month. And we also have a tier that has autograph Ricard 41 buffs. So lots of options there. Go to adfreeNSFW.com. And with that, we'll see you next week. And for more Reality NSFW content, visit adfreeNSFW.com.